Happiness is not the absence of problems, but the ability to deal with them. Imagine all the wondrous things your mind might embrace if it wasn't so wrapped tightly around your struggles. Always look at what you have instead of what you've lost, because it's not what the world takes away from you that counts. It's what you do with what you have left.
This is October 1st of 2024, and it's also the 3-week mark of me being here in Bali, which I think is crazy. It has felt like 3 weeks. It also sometimes feels like it's less. It also feels like I've been here for 3 months already. But overall, it just feels crazy that I'm even here. Like, I'm living in Bali. That's a bit crazy to say. There's a few things I wanted to reflect on, and maybe this helps some people who want to study abroad in general, or people who want to study abroad specifically here, or just people who want to solo travel. Like, I'm 21 years old, and this is the first time I've ever traveled alone. This is definitely a new experience, and one that people usually don't have in general, and let alone like having my age. I don't think it's for everyone. I don't mean to say it as in like I'm more equipped than others to take this leap, but in a sense, I kind of do think I am. I mean, I've been living out the house and I've been living on my own since I was 14. I went to boarding school for high school. This is my 7th year dorming, and then this is my first semester living outside of the country on my own, period. Everyone's in college here, so like they've dormed or whatever, but only for maybe 2 years before this. They're obviously managing it probably as well as I am. Overall, my bottom line is like there's a level of independence that I think you need to have, and like a level of self-reliance and self-sufficiency that you need to have before you take a leap like this. Obviously, everyone goes through mental health issues, but you have to like know when you're going through it, know the steps that you personally, as the human you are, the steps you have to take to make yourself feel better, when to reach out for help, when to step back, when to take time alone, when to talk to people even when you don't want to. I would recommend those to be traits that you have before you're taking a step like this, because living alone on the other side of the world, especially with 14 other people or 13 other people, it's going to bring those traits out of you, and you're gonna have to face that one way or another. I was in Tokyo for 4 days before I got to Bali. I spent like a week getting here, to be honest. My trip was from New York to LA, and then LA to Tokyo. I had a layover in Hong Kong. I was only in the airport for like 2-3 hours, and then Hong Kong, Tokyo. I was in Tokyo for 4 days. Tokyo to Bali, I had a layover in Vietnam. Also just stayed in the airport for like 3 hours. And then here in Bali, I think you have to be a pretty resourceful person to do all of that on your own. Like I said, you're not gonna let yourself die or get lost, hopefully. So like those are things that you're gonna have to learn to be resourceful, but it would be a head start to have that before you take a trip like that. Maybe I'll do a different video about my experience in Tokyo. Starting off my day with the bidet. I'm sorry. But I love Tokyo. I love Japan so much. I want to go back soon because I didn't get to experience too much of it. I just was in Shibuya and Shinjuku for most of it, and I also visited Mount Fuji, so that was really fun. But yeah, sometimes it does get isolating. I mean, you're alone on the other side of the world. The time zone doesn't help, the time difference. When it's day here, it's night at home, and vice versa. But I think this is what I needed. You know, I think now having this experience, I don't see my life having been any other way without being here, without having lived here. I know it's only been 3 weeks, but I'm going to be living here for almost 4 months, which is wild to think about. So I have 12 weeks left approximately, which is 4 times of what I just did. You can do that, right? I don't know, we'll check in. Being far away from home physically and emotionally is pretty rough, even for those who are super self-sufficient and independent. It's hard to nourish a relationship while you're abroad. I think a lot of people here are going through that, or going through the realization that they probably had to end a relationship before coming here because of how difficult it is. TBD. That also has to do with friendship relationships and familial relationships. You know, I make sure to talk to my mom every day as much as I can. I've actually been calling my grandma, who lives in Venezuela, more often than I would in America. And it's because I think I'm experiencing a really weird type of homesickness where here everyone juxtaposes Balinese and Indonesian life with American life, which is very different, you know? But I've been finding myself juxtaposing Balinese life with Venezuelan life and food and customs and mannerisms and lifestyle. And it's made me feel homesick for like my native home. And it's just a really weird feeling because it's like I'm homesick for Venezuela anywhere I go, even when I am in New York or I'm studying in St. Louis. But it somehow it hits different when I'm here. Also, being so far away from home, like physically, like bodily, like you'll get Bali belly. Like I'm pretty sure it's taken out every single one of us. However, mine got fixed in like 48 hours, 50 hours. I'll probably make a separate video about that too, in terms of like packing essentials or like solo travel essentials. But 2 words: activated charcoal. You heard it here. I took maybe 5 or 6 pills of that within 48 hours and I was good. So Bali belly, you can't catch me again. The overall consensus and an idea theme of all of this is that there's just a lot of mental work here. And I mean, if I compare it to like past semesters I've had, or like even the semesters that my friends are having at home, like I'm not doing any work. Like we're doing work, we're having lectures, and I'm learning a lot. But it's more experiential learning, it's more immersive learning. So we don't really have homework. Like we have like bi-weekly reflections, and I'm writing a thesis while I'm here, which is a huge task, to be honest. But I think that what we learn the most is cultural, you know? It's the way of life of people here. It's the language. Oh my God, the language. Like, we're in a foreign country with not only different culture and different lifestyles, but like a different language, you know? So we try to have about 2 hours of learning every day of Bahasa Indonesia. But I think the most I learn is at home, is in my homestay family, is talking to my ibu and her not knowing 4 words of English and just speeding through the language to me and pretending like I know what she's talking about. But you fake it till you make it. And honestly, I've been picking up the language pretty fast, in my opinion. I think it's mainly because of how much my homestay family is talking to me. So, no pura? Or
Merajan.
yeah, pura Merajan.
Yeah.
Merajan is small temple.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Five
Lima.
family. Yeah.
Lima
Keluarga.
keluarga. So that's helping a lot. And also just being curious, you know, like if I'm talking to someone and at the market or at a store, a cab driver, and they say something and I don't know what they're saying, I'll be like, apa? What? Can you explain in a different way? Or like maybe find an English word, or I'll just like immediately Google translate it. So, you know, I'm able to digest new things quicker because of that level of curiosity I think I have. To that point of, you know, language and translation. It's a funny thing about translation because it can sometimes be hard even in the same language. Like I said, it's 14 people in this program, including myself. This past week, we've learned and confronted and dealt with the idea that that's a really weird number group to live with. You know, it's too big for all of us to be together at the same time and make plans with each other, but also too small to like not be together at the same time. And even though we're all from America, I don't know, it's funny how things can get lost in translation, you know? So I think that's something that not only I am, but like we're all dealing with as a group of just like, how can we best understand each other, even if we're speaking the same language? Which then makes the idea of learning a new language in a foreign country on the other side of the world even crazier. Because it's like, if we struggle sometimes to understand each other in our own language and, you know, a lifestyle that we each share, it's sometimes really hard to fathom how we can even do that with people who don't share the same language or culture or lifestyle or anything. But somehow we make it work, you know? I've also found it very interesting how Bahasa is technically less expressive than English. I was gonna say American, that's so stupid. But how Bahasa Indonesia is less expressive than English in the sense that like English has 1,000 synonyms for the same word. Like we have good and spectacular and amazing and grandiose and awesome and fantastic and all these things just mean the same thing arguably, but to different degrees of what that base word is. Whereas here it's bite, like how are you doing, like, or you know, bagus, bagus sekali, like good, very, you know, you just have like the root word or meaning of the thing, and then the augmentizers or like the opposite of them, like the more or less of, you know. And that just has made me think a lot about how we're able to talk about our feelings and express the ways that we're all different from each other. Like, do people here really talk about their feelings at all? Like, I have to think they do, you know, at least to some extent. And then also, does that add to, I don't know, maybe why the West or specifically America is so sensitive sometimes, because we just overshare freaking everything? Like, is it good to overshare? Is it good to just maybe keep some things to yourself? Is it bad to not say how you thoroughly mean because you can't? And that in turn means that you have to bottle some things up because you just literally can't express it. Like literally, like be a language. I don't know. What are the limitations of that? What's freeing about that? Questions I have, for sure. My last point in this reflection is the idea of experiencing and allowing yourself to feel discomfort and pain and just negativity when you're in paradise. I think I know this transition has been hard for virtually probably everyone in this group, probably anyone who would experience something like this. But it's sometimes hard for us to like complain, I've noticed, and say how, you know, like it's super hot here, or like we're not used to the food, or we have to shower with buckets, you know. I'm slightly used to, because I did live in Venezuela for a bit. And so there are, like I said, some customs here that I don't directly compare to America, but more so compared to, you know, how I lived my life in Venezuela. It feels slightly uncomfortable to complain about the things we're living when we're living in Bali. You know, like it almost makes, I feel like, I'm gonna speak for myself, like I sometimes don't allow myself to fully express how I feel and express my discomfort and things, because then like the back of my mind is my own voice telling me like, girl, you're in Bali, shut up. You know, like you're living such a feeling, like, you know, there's no words to it. Why would you waste your breath complaining? And I'm also just in general a person who just doesn't really like complaining. It doesn't feel productive to me. I always try to look at the world optimistically, like it can always be worse. Like I can sometimes be a negative person, but like, don't get me wrong. But my bottom line usually is like, things can be a lot worse for us. Is that maybe why people who live here seem always happy? Like I have the same experience when I think about people in Venezuela. Like my people are struggling back at home. You know, like the government is subjugating us, and we sometimes don't have power or electricity for like weeks on end, and zero communication, and like just bad water. And it's just like, but you talk to someone on the street and they're smiling, they're laughing. Is living in paradise a direct correlation to just being happy? Like, is it almost impossible to be unhappy when you live here, when you're from here? But I guess it goes back to my idea of like, how limiting is that feeling of not being able to fully express yourself, you know? I think it's kind of carceral. Sometimes feels like a bird in a cage, right? To have this like glass house of seeing the outdoors and everything outside of you is the most beautiful scenery and lush green and amazing architecture and life around you, but yet being enclosed in this box of your own negativity, of your own despair, of your own feelings and pent-up emotions that you honestly brought with you to paradise. I don't know, I'm ranting. It's funny because I think I'm about to go get a massage at a spa in Bali right after we finish class, when this is what my class looks like. And it's just things like that that make me say like, is it really worth it to be mad? Alexa, play Mad by Solange and Loren. Thanks for listening to this reflection. I actually really liked doing this. I'll probably dislike editing it, but we'll see how I do.